This is the Talk Dero Issues, and you're with me, Memory Banda. Today we'll be talking about different narratives of what it means to be a woman, and we'll be shedding more light to what it means to be a woman. For centuries, women have been put in a disadvantaged position, and they have been undermined in terms of their abilities, in terms of what they can be and what they cannot be, defining them. And today in the studio, I have women that have actually portrayed that a woman can be anything. And we'll be hearing from them what they have done and what they're doing to change the stories of what it means to be a woman or a girl child. We are at Zaluso Studio, and today I'm joined by Ntanda Madui, who is the founder of Ntaya Foundation, an organization that focuses on building the next generation of creative and innovative young leaders to contribute to the development of the country through technology. And Ms. Ntaya is also the founder of Ntaya Media brand company, and is also a blogger. You can find her on at Lifestyle by Ntaya, and she is also a feminine writer. She wrote her book By the End of My Teens, where she illustrates different challenges that young girls go through and how they can rise beyond that. And currently, she is working with Malawi Regulatory Authority, MRA. She holds a bachelor's in economics from University of Malawi, Chancellor College. And I am also joined by Lusungu Kalanga. She's a fierce feminist. She would like to be actually specifically called an angry feminist. You hear why. And she is an activist with expertise in programming, experience in women's and girls' rights. She is the co-founder of Feminizing While Malawian. It's a podcast, and she's also a co-founder at Growing Ambitions, an organization focusing on creating space for girls and young women to thrive through mentorship and peer learning. Ms. Lusungu is also a 2016 Mandela Washington Fellow and a 2019 Obama Foundation African Leaders alumni, and she holds a Bachelor of Arts from University of Malawi, Chancellor College, and a master's degree in development studies from University of Sussex, UK. And she's currently working on a program funded by DFID, a Violence Against Women Prevention and Response Program, as a Violence Against Women Prevention read. Today, guys, I brought you a package of feminine women, young achievers, and let me tell you, never say you cannot do anything. You can be anything and everything that you have ever dreamt. So I welcome you guys to this episode, and I'm so honored to have you today.
Thank you.
Yeah. And starting with you, Lusungu, what is the link between leadership and gender?
Interesting question.
Yes.
First of all, you look phenomenal.
Thank you. As do you.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah. I think in terms of leadership and gender, as you know, for the longest time, there has been a system called patriarchy,
yes,
which favors the male gender than the female gender, right? And of course, right now, we'll not get into the conversation of the different gender identities that are there now.
Yes.
But I feel like women have been leaders from time immemorial, except that our voices have not been heard. We have been screaming for a long time. And also, some of our work is not deemed as important work.
Yes.
And yet, if that kind of work was not done, the world would not be moving. For example, childcare,
Yes,
domestic work, it is what is relegated to women than men, right? But then women are leaders in their households.
Yes.
Women are leaders in the informal sector. For example, if you look at Malawi, in terms of who are the most entrepreneurs in Malawi, you'll find that it's mostly women.
Yes.
But then there are so many barriers. I'm sure Ntanda is an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
She can speak to that. So many barriers because of this system of patriarchy. And this is homework for everyone. Google what patriarchy is. I'm not gonna break it down.
Educate yourself.
Educate yourself, yeah. But then that is the issue, right? And then when you go into different communities, it is because there are a lot of women who are doing a lot of things,
Yeah.
but just because the system is not meant to accommodate us, then we see it as, oh, girls are not ambitious enough. For example, I like the examples that you gave to say, for example, you hear men saying, oh, I want to be an accountant, I want to be a manager. And then when it comes to women, you hear, oh, I want to be a teacher.
Yeah.
But then in some of the communities that I've also been in, I've heard a lot of boys say, I want to be a truck driver. I want to be, you know, we've heard that those conversations. But it's also that society has created a hierarchy on what matters. So if you are a doctor, it matters more than being a social worker. If you are a lawyer, it matters more than being, I don't know, an entrepreneur. Working. For example, I've had a lot of friends tell me, oh, I'm not working now. I just run an organization. Or I just run, I do this blogging work.
Business.
That is work. That is, and you're self-employed. You're putting in the work. So I'd like to change that narrative in terms of have women been leaders and have women not been leaders, and is it based on gender? Women have been leading in time immemorial.
Actually, you just reminded me, even in the agriculture sector, 80%
of food producers are women. But then when you get to the value chain, when it comes to money, then men are the ones who dominate that side, you see. Yeah, exactly. So we need to change those systems and to change what we mean when we say leader. Yes, in terms of political participation, in terms of maybe the private sector, it's the same, where women have to be extraordinary. For me to be a CEO, I need to have 2 PhDs, 3 masters, and for a man, he just has to be good enough.
Exactly.
Why?
Why should it
Why
be
the
like
double
that?
standard?
Yeah. And maybe just I know Lusungu has really explained a lot on what female leadership is all about. I would like to hear from you, Intanda. What does it mean? Like, you know how like she has already said like there is that demarcation where the system has already said there is a female leader and then there is a male leader. What does female leadership mean to you?
Okay, an interesting question. I like what you said, by the way. Being a leader is just being a leader. I don't think it should be special to be a female leader. I don't think it should be a weird thing. It should be a normal thing. A man can be a leader, a woman can be a leader. The only difference is our gender. We're all equally capable. But you also mentioned of the barriers that women do face, so we can't not mention those. As a woman, there are so many barriers that you're facing just because you're a woman, you're not a man. They're not very active, but they're just certain things where you say, if it was a man, you wouldn't be facing these issues. And more just beyond that, for example, myself, being a young female entrepreneur, there's so much room for exploitation. People want to take advantage of you. So you're trying to navigate the same spaces as your peers, but I'm trying to get to the boss and just get my business deal done. A guy would have just gotten through and got it done. But I have to now do the politics and say, okay, I have to make sure this guy doesn't think of me that way. So when I'm showing up for an interview, I can't wear this. I'll try my best to cover up to here because that's where women are perceived. So those narratives for women leaders, I mean, because we're seen that way, it's very disadvantaging. But also talking of the gender wage gap, because that's what I studied when I did my dissertation in undergrad. So my finding was that, as you said, women are concentrated in lower paying jobs. It's not because there are less jobs, but it's because of how we've valued things in our society. So you find that society says women are better at being nurturers, as they say. So there must be nurses, there must be teachers, there must be mothers. And then we undervalue, we underpay that work. So there's so many women doing such great work, but they're underpaid. Because in Malawi, when you look at, and that's a statistic, for the same work, a man and a woman get paid the same. Actually, women are likely to be paid more. So we're actually, on the world scheme, we don't have a gender wage gap. We shouldn't. But the issue is the men are doing the greater paying jobs. Or like you're saying, when they do even the agriculture work, the women will get paid like, you know.
And then they get everything.
Exactly. So being a woman leader is, you're just a leader. But then the barriers that are there, they exist. And I think they should be demolished.
Exactly. So it's actually, it takes a movement of women to actually go into the spaces and claim the spaces, because in these spaces there is no demarcation that a female can do that only and a man cannot only do that. So it's a space for everyone in a nutshell.
But in terms of spaces, for example, when we look at, for example, like one Tanda has touched on room for exploitation, and so we see this in the form of sexual harassment, etc. Just to say, there are some spaces where if I'm not comfortable with, I should not be there just because, we hear a lot of, for example, deals are made in bars among men, etc. I, for one, I'm comfortable to walk into a bar, but another woman might not be comfortable. You should not have to make yourself uncomfortable and twist yourself into a different shape just because we are adjusting to someone, right? And in the name of leadership. And also, if I am angry, for example, the way I'm speaking, I'm passionate, right? If I'm speaking like that, people will say, she's very If it's a man, when he speaks, he's such a boss. Exactly. Why are we treated differently? And why are we given the motherly figure? And male bosses are not given the fatherly figure.
True, they don't
I'm
get
not
that.
interested in mothering you. I'm just interested in
Do
getting the job
and
done.
And get it done. And I like what you just said. You know how like when it comes to female leader, you have to be vocal for you to be recognized as a leader and to be accepted as a leader. And
that won't always work in your favor because when you do that, then you're seen as she says,
the boss type. Yeah, but we have different personalities. Yeah. You know,
and men are allowed to have different personalities as women, and that's one of the things that I did mention. I think the last time we were talking at the same event, I'm writing a certain book about female leadership. I'm also trying to navigate it for myself. One of the major issues they say is, women are emotional, women can't be leaders and whatever. I'm like, you know what? I'm a hormonal person, very true, but I can learn to manage it. And just because I'm angry at you today, she didn't think, you're very emotional because you're a woman. Because a man will also get emotional and he will shout at you, but when he does, he's a boss. If I'm a woman and I shout at you, I'm being hormonal. I'm being emotional. She's so emotional. She's so white because we look at women as babies, really.
Yeah.
When a man is emotional, it's a boss thing. It's supposed to be emotional. When a woman is emotional, you're acting like a child. You're throwing a tantrum. That's how we're seen.
Which is hilarious because in marriage, then they say, a husband is like
your
a child.
You must raise him.
And I'm the emotional one.
Or somebody actually wrote something. We're digressing here, but they said, choose one. Do you want to be a child or do you want to be the head of the house? Because you must choose. You can't be both.
You can't be both. And just to get back a little bit, we have talked about going into the spaces as leaders, and we face a lot of challenges as female, as women going into those spaces. As much as we are cramming, as much as we are working hard for those spaces, and we are still being abused and stuff like that. How do we ensure that as women, if we go into workplaces, how do we ensure that we don't we run away, not really run away per se, but how do we not entertain such kind of abusive environments?
And I speak from a point of privilege because, for example, I'm educated, I have options, but then there are a lot of women who do not have options, for example, to speak out, which is the number one thing that I was going to say. Speak out. For example, for me, with my peers at work, no, I make it clear if you have said an inappropriate comment, I'll not call you that we should discuss separately. No, I'll call it out there when other people are listening. Don't ever say that to me again, right? And then speaking out and just making sure you are checking on, for example, if it's a work environment, if you are trying to push into a space, for example, as Ntanda is an entrepreneur. I mean, a business partner who wants more than what you can offer, which is just your business. I don't think they should even be your business partner, right? And but I also recognize that we're speaking from a point of privilege. There are a lot of women that do not have that.
I like that you're checking the privilege.
That do not have that option of saying no. But speaking out in an organization, for example, for me, number one is checking: do we have a sexual harassment policy? Does it work? Exactly.
Very important.
Calling out and checking your peers. I don't care
because there's so many companies that have sexual harassment policies, but are they really implemented?
Exactly.
Sometimes even your workmates will come and say something inappropriate, and you're like, "That's inappropriate," and then they come and joke and they say, "What are you going to do? Are you going to report me?"
Exactly.
And I'm like, "Of course I'll report you," but then if you report them, you're the snitch.
Nothing
so the whole office, the
So
office
it gets
is even now
normalized,
against
right?
it's normalized. People say, "No, you can't report that. Come on, I'm angosheza." You know, they say stuff like that, and it's pretty bad. So I think also because of the same privilege, if you're in a space where you have women in your circle and you have a bit more power than them, you should also look out for them. Make it a safe space. Say if you're a woman, exactly. You can come and tell me if you can't voice yourself. If you're feeling like you lose something, then come and tell me. Maybe I may have less to Yeah, because there's times when you have rent to pay.
Yeah, exactly.
You need this business deal done. They owe you the money. You've done the work, but somehow they're just there like, let's grab coffee. Yeah, I'll give you the money. And you're like, why am I grabbing coffee? I did the work. Give me my money.
Exactly.
So when you have the privilege to say, no, I'm not coming to your coffee. Give me my money. You have the privilege. But some people, they're there like they're struggling. The landlord is on their necks. They have rent to pay. They have food to make. So in that space, they'll go for that coffee. You just drag yourself and you're there. They touch you inappropriate. You can't even speak up on it because you need that. So we really need to stick
sisters
together.
Keeper, lean on your sisters. Dismiss the notion that says, hey, pull down syndrome. That is perpetrated by the patriarchy saying, wanting us.
Women hate women.
Exactly.
And it's usually men who will drive it.
Exactly. I was actually talking with my friend. I'm like, I don't think there is no such a thing like women putting down women. Of course, maybe it could exist, but then I feel like it's a
non-human.
Humans.
No, it's a human nature. Here's what, even men put down men, but we try to make it about a woman thing. It's not.
And we're not a homogeneous group. We don't agree on everything. So when we're arguing, it's not catcalling. And when men are arguing, then it was a heated debate. When women argue, cat fight. Why? We are not the same. We have different views, right?
Very true.
And just getting back to you, Ntanda, you wrote your book by the end of Matisse.
One of the few authors.
Yes, I know, young authors. Yeah, so inspired. And in your book, you illustrated the power of that you can unleash as a young person as you're growing up, discovering yourself. Can you shed us more light about your book? And I know it's empowering a lot of young girls, and everyone need a copy. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we sold out, but we'll try to print more.
Oh yeah, you need to print.
Yeah, I mean, okay, now I'm gonna throw in my personal story there, but before I was an author, it was like the dream where I'm like, I want to be an author, it's going to be so great and whatever. When you achieve the dream, it's really quite underwhelming, you know? You're there, but everybody's like, oh, you're an author, and I'm like, yeah, I guess. You know? Yeah. So yeah, the book is something that I wrote for myself mostly. I was discovering myself. Okay, basically I turned 20, I moved out of my parents' home at 21. I'm now in life by myself. And now I'm starting to face myself. You know, I can no longer keep saying my mom, my dad, my who. I'm in my own house. I have to face me.
You're on your own.
Exactly. So it was really me checking myself. And because we didn't have psychology in school, so this was more a psychology book. So it was me healing from my own things, the hurdles I went through with my family, friends, losses of friends, people who passed away when I was younger. I hadn't processed all of those emotions. So I realized they were affecting me and how I was navigating the world. Yeah. So I think it starts, the first one is about the self. So it's me meeting the self. Then it's, okay, after I've met myself, how do I deal with people around me? Friendships, peers, and all of that. Then I think it's about career. How do you go ahead and to pursue career? So it was really just me sharing on the little that I know. Sometimes I think if I go back, I'm going to record the book because I don't know if I was so wise. But I think teens need it. I think it's a space for conversation. And I think spaces like this, not just books, because many people don't read now anymore, actually. But spaces like this.
But they should.
They should. Reading is important. But yeah, it's basically just a space for conversation, whether you're exploring yourself or just having, basically I would like for people to read the book and go out and actually have those conversations with people. As Malawians, we really don't have, I don't know if we don't have conversations because we really, everything must turn to a fight. Like you said, if we disagree, we're fighting. We're not fighting. We're just having a discussion and we have differing opinions, you know? And that's necessary. We must be able to have a conversation. You have your own stance and say, I look at life this way. I should be able to have a stance. But you know, usually our way would be, hey, you're offending me. Hey, and I'll shut down. No, we must be able to have a conversation and also respect each other within that conversation because that progress for conversation is so necessary. So that's what my book was for, and space like this where we're having a conversation, and I would hope that we can disagree on some fundamental things and still be able to have a conversation. That's so necessary.
Thank you, ladies, and we'll go on a short break. And when we come back from the break, we'll be talking about what we can do to change the perception of girls that they can be anything and become anything, and that we create equal opportunities for both girls and boys. Welcome back, and we will be discussing the different perception of young boys and girls in terms of leadership. And right now, I just want to hear from you, Lusungu, having worked on the ground with the young girls, your experience connecting with the girls in the communities at national level, at all levels. What do you think that can be done to make sure that we have created equal opportunities between girls and boys? And do you think gender equality is attainable?
I think the answer is in your question. Equal opportunities. Right? Out there, I do not believe I've met anyone who doesn't exactly know what they want or what their needs are at that time.
Yes.
But there's this tendency of being very prescriptive as, for example, I'm from the development sector. So being, this is what you need. This is what we're going to do for you. But girls and boys, they know exactly what they want. They know what their needs are. And also, let me put a caveat. It's okay, especially as you're growing up, especially in your teens, in your 20s, to not have it figured out, right? For me, when I was growing up, I knew my parents stressed that I need to finish school and go to college. That's all I knew.
That's weird.
So we didn't get these opportunities where you can have mentorship sessions, you can get to know what is ahead of you, what is college, what is Chanko. What are these courses they are talking about? So I really feel like equal opportunities. Make sure that what you're telling boys is the same thing you're telling girls. And it's the little things. In the private spaces, don't cry. A man doesn't cry. And you'll be a pilot. And then to the girl, here are the dolls. You are a girl. You need to prepare for marriage. Don't do that. Sit properly. Because in marriage, this is what has to happen. You see? Send the same messages. Treat them equally. And also, you as a development worker at the family level, as parents, I mean, show us your true self. Don't perform. I feel like a lot of parents perform parenthood, and it's already hard. I'm not a parent, but I can say it's already hard. It was really hard for my parents because I was like separate from the norm, because I asked a lot of questions. I disagreed with them. I challenged them on decisions, you see. Allow that space for young girls and young boys to have the same message. Allow them to explore. Don't shut down a girl because they're interested in, let me say, radios, or they're interested in dressing like a boy. Don't shut that down. Explore those talents. What are they?
I really just want to stress a point she's made before you get to your question about giving girls the freedom. I grew up with that privilege. So my father was all about, these are my girls, you can be anything. I mean, if I came back from school and I was in number one, it was, why aren't you number one? Like, I never even for a day thought that girls had to be less. So my dad, I had to be number one. And that's how I knew the world. I was always number one. I went to secondary school from primary. I was number 10. He still came back to me, why weren't you number one? And that was always a narrative for me. So when I saw that other girls actually are told that, you can go to school just because you're a girl. I see that what that freedom for me has done for me, like moving out at 21. Even my own relatives were going to them like, exactly. And my parents were like, okay, where are you supposed to stay? Like, they're her aunties. They said, but she can afford to stay
on her own.
Why shouldn't she? So there's so many even girls who can't even live by themselves. They don't think for themselves. I was just talking to a friend, of course, a very private story, but how she was even unable to buy the car that she wanted because her uncle and her mother wanted her to buy a certain car. So girls never really have the space to just be free and really just live your life beyond motherhood, especially because that's supposed to be the goal. My parents, for me, I'd be like, I'm in love and what? My mom is like, my God, just focus on school, go get your job and live your life. Now, even when I say I want to get married, they're like, if you want to, but master's degree. You see? That's, that changes for me. Like, that's how I'm able, even the parents, that matters. Because that's how I'm able to be an entrepreneur. I know that I can. They gave me that, they propelled me to say, you can go and you can go do something. But if it was always like, everything you must ask, everything you must seek permission, I don't need to seek for permission. Everything my parents go, okay, is it working out? Good for you. That freedom gives you to try new things, to do more. You can achieve everything you want to be. You can be whatever you want to be.
When you don't have all these choices within you, you end up being exploited. You end up being abused and all that. So I'll still come back to you, Ntanda, and we have talked about so many things, and I want you to share with us how can girls be unapologetic? It's something that she already started. We just had that. I just want you to stress it out. How do girls grow up and be unapologetic?
Okay.
Because
So and I'm gonna take it from where I was just talking about. So it's not that they're not unapologetic. They are born unapologetic. We teach them to start apologizing for every single thing they're doing. So I'm not blaming girls for that. That's on their parents, that's on society, that's on patriarchy. That is on girls. Have all that pressure on them. You know, my mom always says, and she always said this to us, girls are raised, boys raise themselves. So girls are, all the rules that are there in the home of how children should be, there's so much about the girls. You must be like this, you're representing us out there and whatever. Boys, they just go out there and live their lives. They do whatever they do.
Boys.
That's how they're unapologetic. Because, and exactly, boys will be boys. They're allowed to be whatever they want to be. When it's a girl, there is a set plan for you of how you must be. So in that set plan, if you're wrong, you must apologize. If you're wrong, you must come and say, you must beg, you know, can I please go out? Boys, and that comes in curfew, for example. Boys will just go, they come back, the sun is down. If you're a lady, you come after 5 p.m. they'll be like, and stuff like that. I'm like,
Also,
we're
are
all
you going
eating.
to get married? You are coming back this late.
Who will keep the house? Your husband. I'm like, no. If the house can stay by itself, you can go karanga, Joseph no karab. We'll both move out and it will stay. So being unapologetic is it's about society. So the girls, yes, now they must now bloom, but they're kind of undoing the work. They're undoing what has been done to them. They must invest in that. They must feel that they can be strong, they can be whatever. But it's not their fault. I don't want anybody to feel like, oh no, it's my fault or it's my nature, because people try to make it about nature. Women are naturally just like that. They're not. It's the social engineering. And for our kids, if we're trying to have a better community, we must do better for them. And you must understand, also in Malawi, the privileged are so few. It's only about 10% of us that can have this conversation, that are in this conversation. You, like you said, when you go out there to have those talks, you know how demotivated those little girls are. So if we can't even reach that far, but for that we can change. Let's try to have better children and treat girls better. Even for me, sometimes there's things that I don't approve of because of my nature, but then when it's another girl doing it, I allow it. I say, we are policed in every other way. Let her. You know, let her. I don't have to police her. She's been policed enough. So we must give each other the freedom, because men are allowed. I say men will be men. That's what they say. So I'll say women will be women. Maybe we should say that.
Except now men will be held accountable for that.
Exactly.
I told you guys, there is fire here. And I told you I'll bring you these extraordinary ladies, and I hope you have been inspired. And as we have said, girls, go out there, be unapologetic. You can be anything and everything that you have ever dreamt of. And there is a need out there to change the systematic way how the social life is. Girls need to grow up knowing that they are capable of doing anything and they have ability beyond. And as parents, let's educate our girls. Let's put them in school. Education is one powerful tool that can change their life forever. And again, we were here at Zaluso Art Studio. Until next time, please do not forget to keep this conversation going on Facebook. Join us there and we will link up. Thank you.